Thank you, Mr. Chairman. One of the advantages of being the junior most member of the committee on our side of the aisle is you get to listen to everything that's gone on before you during the course of a hearing. And I want to add my voice to my colleagues who have raised the concern about what happened yesterday. I listened to my ranking member ask a legitimate oversight question about the legal basis for troops to be rappelling from a Black Hawk helicopter for a military-style assault on an apartment building in a major city, the zip tying of children. What was the legal basis for this? I heard my ranking member ask that very simple question, that completely appropriate question. If that's not an appropriate oversight question, I don't know what an appropriate oversight question is. And the response was not just to refuse to answer the question, but it was to attack the character of the ranking member.
That line hit hard because deep down, it speaks to something bigger than party politics. It speaks to trust. Can you trust a system where accountability feels optional? Schiff's frustration wasn't just for show. He came across like someone watching the foundations of oversight being chipped away piece by piece. And here's where I want you to think for a moment. If government officials can dismiss tough questions with insults, how long before real answers disappear completely? How long before accountability becomes just another talking point? Schiff's outrage wasn't about winning an argument. It was about saving the purpose of oversight, the one mechanism that keeps democracy from collapsing into secrecy and arrogance.
And to insult him. And then when it was Senator Whitehouse's turn to ask a question, he asked a very legitimate oversight question about a FBI undercover operation in which reportedly $50,000 was paid to the White House border czar prior to him becoming the White House border czar, but with the expectation that he would be helpful in arranging contracts when he became the White House border czar. What happened to the money? A perfectly legitimate oversight question. And rather than answer that question, in a closed investigation, not an open investigation, but a closed investigation, she simply attacked Senator Whitehouse personally. And I heard another one of my colleagues ask, what was the legal basis for blowing up ships in the Caribbean? Reportedly, the Justice Department wrote an opinion justifying blowing up ships in the Caribbean. A perfectly legitimate oversight question, and the response was another personal attack. These what were apparently canned, written personal attacks in advance.
He was essentially saying, we can't let this behavior repeat, because if future hearings turn into verbal brawls filled with personal insults instead of real answers, how can the public trust what comes out of Washington anymore? Schiff was fighting for something deeper than just respect in the room. He was fighting for the credibility of Congress itself. And honestly, he had a point. When the people who are supposed to answer questions turn those moments into attacks, it sends a dangerous message that truth is optional. Schiff's argument wasn't only about politics, it was about principle. If accountability fades, so does the line between power and corruption. Now imagine you're watching that exchange live, one side demanding honesty, the other side hiding behind hostility. You'd probably wonder who's protecting the truth here. Schiff wanted the chairman to step up to tell witnesses that personal attacks stop now, that the rules of oversight apply equally, no matter who sits in the hot seat. He even acknowledged Grassley's fairness in private interactions, which made his plea even more striking. It wasn't an attack, it was an appeal to conscience. Schiff wanted him to be the one to draw the line, to say, this isn't how government works.
If members of this committee can't ask those serious questions and get serious answers, we can't do oversight. I'm new to this committee. I spent about a decade on the House Judiciary Committee. I never saw a hearing like this with a cabinet officer, and if I did, and some Democratic cabinet officer were to personally attack each of my Republican colleagues, I would call for a stop to it. It would be disgraceful. And I understand the reluctance to criticize on your side of the aisle one of the Republican cabinet members. But if this becomes the template for future hearings, we won't be able to do any oversight, and things will just degenerate. These questions deserve answers. I would expect that if troops were rappelling from helicopters in any city, in any of your states, and hog-tying children, You would want to know the legal basis.
I thought that I set the decorum for a hearing, oversight hearing, when I said before we asked the director of the FBI any questions or any statements, that we should, both sides, treat each other with respect. And I even said to Patel, if you don't get a chance to answer your questions, I'll give you an opportunity after the senator's finished for a few minutes to respond whatever you didn't get a chance to say. And you know how that meeting turned out. And particularly from your side of the aisle, a lot of strong statements about the FBI director. Whether they were legitimate or not is beside the point. It didn't follow the decorum, and obviously the director of the FBI didn't follow the decorum. So I don't know what more I can do than plead with my people who are fellow senators to follow a certain decorum, and I assume it would be followed on the other side. I don't appreciate the insults that went to Democrat members, particularly where they were wrong, but after seeing how senators handled the FBI director, I guess I felt that just let the show go on the way the senators wanted to go on. And that's what developed as a result of it. That may be a weak excuse for what happened that day, but I thought things didn't work out the way I expected them to when the FBI director was here, and some of the people on your side of the aisle were some of the ones that were screaming and yelling and talking over the FBI director.
Grassley's response wasn't about defending Bondi or attacking Schiff. It was about defending the institution itself. He was reminding everyone that if hearings keep turning into shouting matches, no one wins, not Democrats, not Republicans, and certainly not the American people who rely on those hearings for truth. And that's where this whole clash becomes fascinating. Schiff was demanding accountability from power, while Grassley was demanding discipline from the process. Two different battles, both important. Schiff wanted answers, Grassley wanted order. But here's the tragic part, both men were right and both were losing, because when the fight for truth collides with the fight for decorum, neither one can survive without the other. So what does that mean for us watching from the outside? It means our leaders are so busy fighting about how to talk that they've forgotten why they're talking in the first place, to serve the people. And that's the real crisis in Washington. Let me ask you this. Do you think it's possible to bring respect and truth back into the same room? Or has politics become so divided that even the people demanding order can't stop the chaos anymore? Because Grassley's quiet frustration might just be the most honest reflection of where American politics stands today. Not shouting, not arguing, but sighing at the dysfunction no one seems able to fix.